Okay, so we're going to be taking a deep dive into chapter 30 of this memoir.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
wow, this is a pretty intense chapter. I mean, we're talking about a life-threatening illness when the author was only 16 years old,
Right.
a coma, relearning to walk.
Yeah.
And then there's like this whole other layer of soul-searching that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And just to add to the whole experience, the author was living in Belgium at the time.
Yeah, what I find so fascinating about this chapter is that it's not just about like the physical recovery.
Right.
It's really about how this entire experience like completely reshaped the author's sense of self, their faith, their understanding of what it means to truly live.
You know, you're so right about that. There's this like feeling throughout the chapter of being caught between two worlds.
Yeah.
And, you know, the author even talks about how Belgium felt more like home to them than Louisiana, where they were actually born.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're hit with this illness and like everything changes.
Well, think about it. The teenage years are already such a time of figuring out who you are and where you belong.
Right. And then you add in facing your own mortality.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it just makes you think about how those formative experiences in Belgium, you know, might have influenced the author's outlook on life and death.
Absolutely. And, this wasn't just like a close call, this near-death experience. I mean, we're talking a double resuscitation, a 5.5-week coma, and then extensive surgery to remove damaged tissue.
Wow.
The author even describes their shin bones being exposed.
Yeah.
It's like hard to even imagine the physical pain they must have gone through.
The resilience is just remarkable. But, you know, it's not just the physical recovery that's amazing.
Right.
The author also talks about these like intuitive actions they were doing leading up to the hospital visit. Almost like they knew on some level what was about to happen.
Yeah.
And then there are all these perfectly timed events that make you wonder about, you know, fate versus chance.
Like it was all preordained in some way.
Yeah.
I think I'd be questioning everything, too, after an experience like that.
Oh, for sure. And then on top of all of that, there's the challenge of relearning to walk.
Yeah.
Not to mention the muscle transfer surgery on both feet.
Right.
Can you imagine having to retrain your brain to walk without braces after all of that?
It's mind-blowing when you think about the adaptability of the human body,
I know.
The author mentions an artery in their leg being switched at birth, which wasn't even related to the illness, but it just adds another layer of complexity to their physical journey.
It's almost like they're dealing with these multiple layers of reality.
Yeah.
The physical challenges, the near-death experiences, and then this growing sense of a split between their inner self and their physical body.
And that's really where I think this chapter gets so insightful. It's not just a story about overcoming hardship. It's about trying to make sense of a life that's been profoundly disrupted.
Right.
About reconciling the limitations of the body with the seemingly boundless spirit within.
You know, that makes me think about the author's childhood dreams. You know, the dancing, the running.
Yeah.
All of that was essentially taken away from them.
It's heartbreaking.
How do you even begin to process that kind of loss?
The author contrasts that loss with the continued energy of their inner self. That part of them that can still dream and envision a life without limitations.
Yeah.
And it makes you question, what does it mean to truly live when your physical reality is so drastically different from your inner aspirations?
That's such a good question. And how much of that inner strength do you think came from the author's time in Belgium? They talk about Belgium as this place of freedom and self-discovery.
Right.
Do you think that played a role in their resilience?
Yeah. It's an interesting question to consider. Maybe those experiences in Belgium helped the author develop the strong sense of self. Like a core that remained intact even when their physical world was turned upside down. It's like they had this inner reservoir of strength to draw from.
That reminds me of something else that's kind of subtle but present throughout the chapter.
What's that?
It's the author's questioning of faith.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they're trying to find a way to reconcile their beliefs with what they've experienced.
It's like grappling with that age-old question, why do bad things happen to good people?
Right.
Especially after all those coincidences and near-death experiences.
Yeah.
It's enough to shake anyone's faith.
So we have this young person facing these incredible physical challenges, grappling with their faith and trying to understand this feeling of being split between their inner and outer selves.
It's a lot.
It is. What do you think is like the most significant takeaway for the listener so far?
I think it's the sheer determination to find meaning in the midst of chaos. The author doesn't shy away from the pain and the confusion, but there's this underlying drive to make sense of it all, to find a way forward. And, That's something we can all relate to, whether we've faced similar challenges or not.
Absolutely.
Just that human need to find meaning and purpose.
Yeah,
It's universal.
it is.
And the author really captures that struggle beautifully in this chapter.
Yeah, they do.
And it's in that search for meaning that I think the author's journey back to Louisiana becomes so pivotal.
Yeah, it's like Louisiana represents this return to the familiar,
Right.
but it's also a completely new landscape for them. I mean, they're not the same person they were before leaving for Belgium.
That's so true. The author even talks about how returning to Louisiana felt like stepping into a more spiritual existence,
Hmm.
which is kind of interesting considering they didn't really identify as particularly spiritual before their illness.
Do you think that's where this whole split self concept really comes into play?
Maybe.
Like, their physical self is back in Louisiana, but their inner self is still processing everything that happened in Belgium.
Yeah, that's a really insightful observation. It's like they're trying to reconcile these two parts of themselves.
Right.
The part that experienced this profound transformation and the part that's trying to fit back into a life that no longer quite fits.
And those childhood dreams keep coming up, the dancing, the running.
Right.
It's just heartbreaking to read about how those simple joys were taken away.
It is, but there's also this incredible defiance in the author's voice. They
Yeah.
talk about how their inner self can still dance and run and experience all the things their body can't. It's like they're refusing to let their limitations define them.
It makes you wonder if this split is really even a negative thing.
Right.
Maybe it's actually a source of strength.
Yeah.
The author's drawing on that inner resilience to navigate a world that's suddenly become much more challenging.
I love that perspective. Maybe this split isn't about being broken, but about adapting.
Yeah.
It's about finding new ways to experience the world, to connect with joy and meaning, even when the physical reality has changed.
And that's what the author's writing is just so powerful.
I agree.
They're not sugarcoating anything. They're openly talking about the frustration, the pain, the feeling of being trapped between these two worlds.
But even in those moments of darkness, there's this glimmer of hope. The author talks about the possibility of these two selves realigning, finding a way to coexist in harmony.
Like a quest for wholeness.
Exactly. A way to integrate those seemingly disparate parts of themselves.
And it sounds like Louisiana, despite its unfamiliarity, is actually helping them on that journey.
Right.
They're finding this new sense of purpose,
Yeah.
a new way to connect with their inner self, even if it's different from what they imagined before.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that healing and growth can happen in the most unexpected places.
Yeah.
The author isn't trying to erase their past or pretend that the challenges didn't happen. They're using those experiences to fuel their journey forward.
And that's such an important message for anyone listening.
Right.
We all face challenges, setbacks, moments where we feel lost or broken.
Yeah.
But what this chapter highlights is the power of finding meaning in those experiences, of using them to shape ourselves into something stronger and more resilient.
It's about recognizing that our inner selves, our dreams and aspirations, they don't have to be limited by our physical circumstances.
Yeah.
We can find ways to nurture those dreams, to find joy and purpose, even when the path ahead seems uncertain.
That leads us to the end of the chapter where the author talks about starting this new life, one that's broken but beautiful.
Yeah.
What do you think they mean by that?
Yeah. It's such a powerful image, Broken but beautiful. It acknowledges the pain and the scars, but also the potential for something new and amazing to emerge from those difficult experiences.
It's like that Japanese art of kintsugi. Have you heard of that?
I have.
Where they repair broken pottery with gold,
Oh, yeah.
highlighting the cracks as part of the object's history and beauty.
Right.
The author isn't trying to erase the past. They're embracing it,
Right.
incorporating it into who they are now.
And there's this underlying sense of hope that just shines through
Yeah.
this belief that passionate love is waiting for them in this new chapter. It's just inspiring to see that even after everything they've been through, they still have this optimism about the future. Yeah, it really speaks to the resilience of the human spirit, that capacity to find light even in the darkest of times. It's this reminder that even when things feel broken, there's always potential for healing, for growth, for love.
So, what does this all mean for us as readers?
Right.
We talk about resilience, the search for meaning, this split self-concept,
Right.
and the power of embracing our experiences, both good and bad.
Yeah.
What are some key takeaways that you think will resonate with the listener?
I think the most powerful message here is that our experiences, no matter how challenging, can be integrated into who we are.
Hmm.
It's about finding a way to honor those experiences, to let them shape us without defining us.
And that idea of the split self,
Yeah.
it's not about being fragmented or broken.
Mhm.
It's about recognizing that we all have these different parts of ourselves, these
Yeah.
inner desires and aspirations that maybe don't always align with our external realities. And the author's journey, I think, shows us that it's possible to find a way to bring those parts together,
Yeah.
to find a sense of wholeness, even in the midst of all the complexity.
Absolutely. And it's a process, you know? It's not like you just arrive at this place of wholeness.
Right.
It's ongoing. The
Yep.
author is still figuring things out, as they move forward.
Right.
They're not offering any easy answers, but they're showing us that it's okay to embrace the journey,
Yeah.
to keep searching for meaning and connection, even when the path ahead feels uncertain.
Well, this deep dive has been incredibly thought-provoking, and I hope it's left all of you listening out there with some things to ponder as well.
Me too.
How do your own experiences, both challenging and joyous, shape the way you view yourself, your inner and outer worlds? Where do you find your strength and resilience?
Such a good question.
These are questions worth exploring, and we encourage you to keep diving deeper into your own story. Thanks for joining us.